A good example of an English word that one does not hear being used quite so often these days is palaver. How might it appear in a conversation? I've just applied for planning permission to build a home office in my garden, and let me tell you what a palaver that turned out to be. The term is most commonly spelled P-A-L-A-V-E-R, palaver, though often pronounced parlaver in British dialects, has a fascinating, multi-layered history that fits perfectly with the linguistic interests of any writer. So what are the linguistic roots of palaver? The word originates from the Portuguese palabra, which simply means word. This in turn comes from the Latin parabola, meaning parable or story. Interestingly, this is a doublet of the word parole, while parole evolved through French to mean a person's word of honor, as in out on parole, trusted that a former prisoner is out in the community on trust that he or she will not break any laws, otherwise they would be returned to jail. However, palaver as a distinct term took a more circuitous route through trade and colonialism. So, what was the historical evolution? The term entered the English language in the early 18th century through maritime and colonial trade. Portuguese traders who were frequent visitors to the West African coast used palaver to describe negotiations or talks with local indigenous populations. English sailors, using a distinct sailor's slang, adopted the term to describe these often long, drawn-out and tedious negotiations. Over time, the meaning shifted from a formal conference to its modern sense, a fuss, an unnecessary bother, or a long-winded, meaningless business. The Polari connection. There is an interesting theatrical and gay cultural link to the word palaver. Polari was a secret slang language used by British actors, circus performers, and the gay subculture in the mid-20th century. In Polari, the word is often condensed as parlare or parleri, from the Italian parlare, to speak. It was used to describe talking or performing. At a time when gay men were persecuted in society and where homosexual relations between men were illegal in Great Britain, gay men developed a secret language called polari, allowing them to have open conversations together in public spaces such as buses, trains, theatres and cafes, without people around them understanding what they were talking about. So, to recap the root of the term palaver, it is from the Latin parabola and the Portuguese word palavra to the English palaver. The divergence that led to the inception of palaver accepts that while the word parole came through French and retained a sense of legal word of honor, palaver came through maritime trade and took on the meaning of a long-winded talk or a fuss. So, when someone says, "What a palaver that was," or "We just booked our summer holiday online, but it was much more of a palaver than it should have been," they are meaning that it was a fuss, an unnecessary bother, or a long-winded, meaningless business. Why not help keep this historic term alive? We have all experienced this type of frustration at times, haven't we?